Okay. Okay, so we'll have a quick recap of what we studied last day. Okay, so we started with the causes of poverty in India yesterday. We discussed certain causes. Then we took the topic of the task force of Nidhi Aayog on poverty. Then we discussed on the strategies to combat poverty. That is the employment intensive, sustained, rapid growth. And the other one is the making anti-poverty programs more effective. So we learned about certain topics like this. Then we discussed about the poverty and sustainable development goals. Then about hunger, GHI. That is the what is GHI? Global Hunger Index. So we discussed a lot of things yesterday. Now we'll continue with that. We also discussed the National Food Security Act of 2013, and we started with the poverty alleviation programs, right? So the first poverty alleviation program which we started was the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme or National Guarantee Act. Okay, so that was the act which we started with. So now we have written certain points regarding MG Magan Rega. Now we'll write certain recent initiatives under the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Okay, so you can note it down. There are certain recent initiatives under Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. You can note down it as recent initiatives. Interdepartmental convergence. First point. Interdepartmental convergence. Interdepartmental convergence and collaboration activities. Interdepartmental convergence and collaboration activities like construction of individual household, like construction of individual households, individual household latrines, 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 latrines. under the Nirmal Bharat Abhiyan, under the Nirmal Bharat Abhiyan, comma, construction of Anganwadi centers, construction of Anganwadi centers, under the integrated child development scheme, under the integrated child development scheme, that is also known as ICDS. Construction of village playfields, construction of village playfields, playfield, under the panchayat, under the panchayat yuva krida KRIDA, yuva krida KRIDA, or AUR, okay, it's not OR, AUR, or Khel Abhiyan, KHEL Abhiyan, ABHIYAN. These are the names of different schemes, okay? And convergence, and convergence with watershed management programs, and convergence with watershed management programs. Okay, the next point is there are steps to open individual bank or post office accounts, individual bank or post office accounts. Second, steps to open individual bank or post office accounts. Steps to open for all women workers. For all women workers. Third point, identifying and providing job cards, CARDS, job cards to widowed, comma, deserted, to widowed, comma, deserted, and destitute women. And destitute, DESTITUT, destitute women. Fourth point, initiatives for the disabled, and other vulnerable persons. Initiatives for the disabled and other vulnerable persons by fixing initiatives for the disabled and other vulnerable persons by fixing schedule of rates, RATES, rates based on work and time, based on work and time, work and time motion study, work and time motion study at state level. At state level. And the last point is adding new works, adding new works to the existing list of, adding new works to the existing list of permissible works, permissible works, specifically focusing on rural livelihood, specifically focusing on rural livelihood and agricultural activities. Okay, for those who haven't been in this class, these are the recent initiatives under the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. We've already discussed about the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. And it is about providing 100 days of work to people who are ready to do unskilled manual work. Okay, it's not about the skilled manual work, it's about the unskilled manual work. This is a scheme which provides 100 days of wage employment. Employment in the wage employment in the sense ജോലി ചെയ്യുന്നത് മാത്രമല്ല അതോടൊപ്പം ശമ്പളം കൂടെ കിട്ടുന്ന 100 days ഉറപ്പുവരുത്തുക എന്നുള്ള ഒരു സ്കീമാണ് മഹാത്മാഗാന്ധി നാഷണൽ റൂറൽ എംപ്ലോയ്മെന്റ് ഗ്യാരണ്ടി സ്കീം. Okay, so that is the major benefit, that's the major aim of this scheme. Many people have benefited from the scheme, and we have right now been discussing the recent initiatives of Maganrega, out of which we have under this scheme, there are many other schemes coming under this. That is the Nirmal Bharat Abhiyan, ICDS, known as the Integrated Child Development Scheme. Then there have been steps to bring up women or the empowerment of women. There have been steps to open bank account or individual bank accounts and post office accounts for women. So there have been steps to it is not only a gender oriented scheme, but it can also be termed as a scheme which makes India much more or views India from a much more developed sense, in the sense that it divides or it reduces the gap between rural and urban India. It tries to reduce the gap between genders, that is male and female. It tries to reduce the gap between poor and the rich. So it not only focuses on one aspect of life or one aspect of study, but instead under the scheme, we take into consideration the wage employment, not only for men, but also for women, not only in rural areas, but also in urban areas, not only for the poor, but also for the rich. So different categories of people, different sections of the people, all of them are brought under this scheme. So that is the major benefit of this scheme. Okay, that is the major benefit of Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. We'll study certain other schemes also. And one thing which you have to differentiate is that we are talking about poverty alleviation as well as employment generation schemes. And Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme is basically employment generation scheme. Okay, this is more of an employment generation scheme. And I've told you one thing yesterday. All these things are interlinked. What we are studying today, what we have been learning, all these aspects or all these topics are interlinked. Unemployment is related to poverty, and that is related to inequality. Okay, when a person who was unemployed gets a job, when he becomes employed, automatically he is shifted from that poverty situation to to the above poverty line, or he is lifted up from that poverty scenario, which means that he's having job now, he's having money in his hands, and that reduces the inequality in a country. Okay, so that is where these concepts are interrelated, and you have to differentiate between the poverty alleviation as well as the employment generation schemes. And Mahatma Gandhi MGNREGA is a scheme which comes under the employment generation scheme. Okay, it's an employment generation scheme and not more of a poverty alleviation scheme. Okay, that's it. The next scheme is Swarna Jayanti. That's the next scheme. Okay, like MGNREGA or Maganrega, Swarna Jayanti, Gram, Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarozgar Yojana. Swarna Jayanti Gram, SWA. You need the spelling of which word? First word. Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarozgar. SWAROGROJGAR. SWAROJ Swarozgar. It's J. Though it's pronounced as Swarozgar, it's Swarozgar. ROJGAR. Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarozgar Yojana or SGSY. Okay, so this was a major ongoing scheme. Can write it down. This was a major ongoing scheme launched in April 1999. This was a major ongoing scheme launched in April 1999 to help poor rural families. To help poor rural families. And these poor rural families are the people who are known as the Swarozgaris. Okay. You may write it down in bracket. They are known as the Swarozgaris. That's why the scheme is known as Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarozgar Yojana. It's a scheme meant for them, the poor rural families. Swarozgaris cross the poverty line. Cross the poverty line by assisting them. By assisting them to take up. By assisting them to take up income generating activities. By assisting them to take up income generating activities through a mix of bank credits, and government subsidy. Through a mix of bank credit and government subsidy. The scheme involved. Next point, the scheme involved selection of key activities. The scheme involved selection of key activities, comma, planning of activity clusters, comma, organization of the poor into self-help groups. Organization of the poor into self-help groups, SHGs. Organization of the poor into self-help groups. And building their capacities. Through skill development and training. Through skill development and training. Through skill development and training, comma, creation of infrastructure. Creation of infrastructure. and technological and marketing support. And technological and marketing support. Okay, so this is about the Swarna Jayanti Gram Surozgar Yojana. We have to write some more things under the scheme, which I'll tell you. But for whom are these meant? For which kind of people are these meant? For the poor rural families, right? For the poor rural families, they are also known as the Swarozgaris. And it is for them to cross this poverty line. The government of India has taken the scheme. When did they take up the scheme? It was in April 1999. Okay, it was in April 1999, and that was to assist them to cross this poverty line or to make them lift up from this poverty scenario by giving them credit and government subsidy. Okay, subsidies കൊടുക്കുക, credit കൊടുക്കുക, അവർക്ക് വേണ്ട ഇൻഫ്രാസ്ട്രക്ചർ, അവർക്ക് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള മാർക്കറ്റിംഗ്, ട്രെയിനിങ്, സ്കിൽ ഡെവലപ്മെന്റ്, ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ളതെല്ലാം പുവർ റൂറൽ ഫാമിലീസിന് കൊടുക്കുന്നത് വഴി taking or uplifting them from the current poverty scenario is what the government of India is aimed at through the scheme. Okay, so you can write down the next question as such. You write it as a question. For which type of people was it meant, or for whom was it meant? For whom or for which section of the society was it meant? Was the scheme meant? This scheme specially focused on, an answer to that, this scheme specially focused on, the scheme specially focused on the vulnerable sections of the society. The vulnerable sections, you can write vulnerable sections among the rural poor. Okay, vulnerable sections among the rural poor. With SCs and STs, with SCs and STs, to account for at least 50%, to account for at least 50%, and women 40% of the Swarozgaris, and women 40%, and women 40% of the Swarozgaris. The share of minorities, the share of minorities and disabled persons will be 15%, 15, will be 15%, 15%, and 3% respectively. That is, for the minorities, it will be 15%, and for the disabled persons, it will be 3%. Also, comma, 15%, 15% of Swarozgaris or SGSY allocation, 15% of SGSY allocation was set apart for the implementation of special projects, that are of different models, of self-employment generation, that are of different models of self-employment generation, and to enhance and to enhance the income generating capacity and to enhance the income generating capacity of the rural poor. Okay, so this is Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarozgar Yojana. This was a scheme which was initiated in April 1999 by the government of India. And whom did they target or whom did they focus? Their main target was the poor rural families who are also known as the Swarozgaris. And what did they try to do? They tried to provide credit. They tried to give government subsidies. They also try to provide them with infrastructure, rural infrastructure, also certain reservations for the disabled and minority categories. That is 15% and 3% respectively. So that has been the main aim of Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarozgar Yojana. One thing which you have to Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarozgar Yojana, okay? One thing you have to differentiate the first scheme, that is the Maganrega from this scheme, is that, as I told you earlier, Maganrega was a scheme that had a lot of areas covered. That is, they tried to reduce the division or the divide between the rich and the poor, the urban and the rural, and also women and men. But here, when it comes to the case of Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarozgar Yojana, it is mainly focusing on the poor rural families. Okay, women men divide is not actually considered, and that has been one of the major drawbacks of this scheme also. Though there has been a very good initiative to include the poor rural families into the original setup, the exclusion of the women men issues and the existing rich poor issues had to be considered in the scheme. Okay, so that can be noted as a difference of point when you compare the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme with this scheme. Okay, while that was a all-covering scheme or an all-covered scheme, this was a scheme which focused particularly on one sector, and the other sectors or the other areas like men-women issues and other issue which I told you was the rich-poor divide, that had been excluded. Okay, that remains as a problem, that remains as a drawback. So that being the analysis of this Yojana, we'll move to the next scheme. Okay, that's the third scheme or the mission. Third mission, National Rural Livelihoods Mission. National Rural Livelihoods Mission. National Rural Livelihoods Mission. It's also known as NRLM. So first point which you have to highlight is it was launched by the National Rural Livelihoods Mission. It was launched by the Ministry of Rural Development. Ministry of Rural Development. Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India for Government of India and all you write GOI. Government of India in June 2011. In June 2011. Okay, you note down the date. The second point, aided in part through investment support. Aided in part through investment support by the World Bank. By the World Bank. The mission aims to create efficient and effective. The mission aims to create efficient and effective institutional platforms. Efficient and effective institutional platforms. Efficient and effective institutional platforms of the rural poor. Of the rural poor enabling them to increase household income, enabling them to increase household income through sustainable livelihood enhancements and improved access to financial resources or financial services. And improved access to financial services. And improved access to financial services. NRLM. Next point, NRLM set out with an agenda. NRLM set out with an agenda to cover. NRLM set out with an agenda to cover 7 crore rural poor households. To cover 7 crore rural poor households across 600 districts. Across 600 districts, comma, 6,000 blocks, BLOCKs, 6,000 blocks, comma, 2.5 lakh gram panchayats, 2.5 lakh gram panchayats, 2.5 lakh gram panchayats, and 6 lakh villages, and 6 lakh villages in the country, and 6 lakh villages in the country through self-managed SHGs. SHGs are what? Self-help groups. Through self-managed SHGs and federal institutions. Through self-managed SHGs and federal institutions, and support them. Federal institutions and support them for livelihoods. And support them for livelihoods. Collective in a period of 8 to 10 years. Collective in a period of 8 to 10 years. Okay, so this is the National Rural Livelihoods Mission. So from the name of the scheme itself, you can understand that this scheme focuses on which part of India? The rural part of India. Okay, National Rural Livelihoods Mission. You assess each and every term, National Rural Livelihoods Mission. Okay, it is for the betterment of the livelihood of the rural people or of the people of the rural areas. Okay, when was the scheme introduced? The scheme was introduced on June 2012, in June 2012, okay, by the Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India. And the main aim of the scheme, the main objective, the main aim of the scheme was to provide the rural people, to give them more access to financial services. Okay, the people of rural India, they might not be much aware of the bank accounts, of how are the financial services. They only might be dealing in cash terms. Okay, a farmer might only know regarding the cash terms. He might be dealing with a subsidiary producer with him. He might be dealing only in cash terms. He might not be knowing about the checks that are there, the loans that are there, the bank accounts, the account that he can facilitate, the bank services he can use. He or she might not be aware of all these services which banks provide, which financial institutions provide. So to give them an awareness regarding that, to give them an overall support in the form of a scheme, this National Rural Livelihoods Mission was introduced. Okay. So to whom it is targeted? Whenever you take any of these schemes, these are the questions which you must be able to answer. To whom it is targeted, or for whom is the scheme? When was it introduced? Who introduced this scheme? What was the major aim of this scheme? Was it successful or not? Okay. If you are able to answer these 5 to 6 questions, it means that you know about the scheme. So the scheme is the NRLM. It is known as NRLM. It was introduced in June 2012 by the Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India. What was the major aim of this scheme? It was to give awareness and an understanding for the rural people regarding the financial services that exist in our country, right? And the aiding for this National Rural Livelihoods Mission comes also from the World Bank. Okay. You might have heard about the International Monetary Fund, IMF, World Bank, etc. Those are very large and big financial institutions who provide loans at a very low interest rate to different countries. Okay. So these are like from that institution, the World Bank, it's not IMF, the World Bank is an institution which aids the National Rural Livelihoods Mission, this scheme of the Indian government. Okay. So you can write down the next point now. In addition, the poor will be facilitated. In addition, the poor will be facilitated to achieve. The poor will be facilitated to achieve increased access. The poor will be facilitated to achieve increased access to rights. RIGHTS, rights, avakashangal, rights, comma, entitlements, rights, comma, entitlements, and public services. Rights, comma, entitlements, and public services, comma, diversified risk, and better social indicators of development. Diversified risk and better social indicators of development. Diversified risk and better social indicators of development. What do you mean by diversifying risk? Or is it diversifying? Is it about reducing risk or is it about increasing the risk? Reducing the risk. That's it. We are diversifying the portfolio. Okay. If, for example, this I'll give you a simple example. It means that if we take the concept of diversifying portfolio, it means that a person has a bank account in several banks. Okay. Or he's trading in several companies for that reason. I have got accounts or I am in share or I am trading with different companies of India. So what is the benefit that I am deriving from that is I have a very low risk. Even if one company does bad, okay, even if one company's shares fall low, I will still gain because I have got shares in different companies. If all of my share is invested in one company, what will happen? If the share of that company goes down, my profit will decline. I will go to a loss. Okay. What do you mean by diversifying risk is you are investing or you are investing or you are spending some money on different aspects. Okay. That can be on different the companies, that can be on different schemes, that can be on different jobs. Okay. I'll give you a simple example. A person who has got a government job, okay? He has got a government job or he has got a job. He is earning some income. Now he is going to write, like you all, like we all, now he is going to write UPSC. He is in a much more safer position provided that he has got a job, he's got an income. It is absolutely different from a person who doesn't have an income, who doesn't have a job. Okay. That is complete risk, while this one is diversifying risk. Okay. This one has a reduced risk. So that is what I was trying to tell you. All these schemes, whenever you state these schemes, okay, one point or one major objective of all these schemes is diversifying risk or reducing risk. Okay, you can write it in any scheme anywhere. All the schemes implemented in India have a habit of diversifying risk. That is one point which you may note down. You just note out that word diversifying risk, or you just highlight that word which we told right now. So that's a point which you can write in all the schemes. Okay, that can be in Maganrega or the SGSY scheme, NRLM, and the other schemes which you are going to study right now. Okay, it's about diversifying risk. It's about reducing risk. It's about getting much more financial credit, getting much more financial aid, getting access to much more financial services, etc. Okay. So the next point, which you can write down under this scheme is in November 2015, in November 2015, the scheme was renamed as, in November 2015, the scheme was renamed as, do you know what it was renamed as? I'll give you a slight hint. It starts with Deen Dayal. Deen Dayal. Have you heard about Deen Dayal Upadhyaya? Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana. It was renamed as Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana. Okay, Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana. It is also known as DAY, DAY. You can write DAY. DAY believes in, that is Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana believes in harnessing, HARNESSING, harnessing the innate capabilities, the innate capabilities of the poor, the innate capabilities of the poor, and complements them with the capacities, and complements them with the capacities. In bracket, you may note down information. In bracket, you may note down information, comma, knowledge, information, knowledge, skills, tools, finance, information, knowledge, skills, tools, finance, and collectivization. Collectivization. Collective, VIZA or VISATION. Collectivization. You can close the bracket and write to participate. To participate in the growing economy of the country. To participate in the growing economy of the country. To participate in the growing economy of the country. So this Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana also complements with the National Rural Livelihoods Mission. It just states that it tries to bring or develop the innate capabilities or the innate capacities that are there in the economy or that are there in the rural people. Okay, that's the basic thing. After renaming also, it hasn't made much difference. The scheme remains the same. So I'll ask you a question right now. When was SGSY launched? Swarna Jayanti Gram Sarojgar Yojana. When was it launched? Exactly, April 1999. Okay, so you just go through all these schemes. You just read that. You just read the schemes, three schemes which you have written down: Maganrega, SGSY, and this one, NRLM. Just go through the schemes. After we'll discuss the next scheme. Those who haven't written something regarding any of these schemes, you may look at your friend's notebook, and if you want to write down the important points, you can note it down now. For those who haven't written something, or if you feel that you have missed out any points, you may note it down. Maganrega. I think I haven't told you the exact date for Maganrega, have I? You just check your notebook. I'll refer to it. And so I think we'll start the next scheme. Okay, we'll write down the next scheme. That is, again, it's Swarna Jayanti. Swarna Jayanti, Shahari Rozgar Yojana. Swarna Jayanti, Shahari, SHAHARI. Swarna Jayanti, Shahari, SHAHARI. Shahari Rozgar, ROZGAR. Rozgar Yojana. Shahari Rozgar Yojana. This scheme was launched. This scheme was launched by the Government of India. This scheme was launched by the Government of India in December 1997. In December 1997, and was revamped with effect from April 2009, and was revamped with effect from April 2009. The scheme provided gainful employment to the urban unemployed and underemployed through encouraging the setting up of self-employed ventures or self-employment ventures of provision of wage employment. Self-employment ventures of provision of wage employment. Of provision of wage employment. The revamped scheme had the following 5 components. The revamped scheme had the following 5 components. Okay, the revamped scheme had the following 5 components. First component is urban self-employment program. Urban self-employment program. Urban self-employment program. You highlight or put that self-employment in a box, okay? Urban self-employment program or USEP. You highlight the word self-employment. Second component or second component is urban women self-help programs. Urban women self-help programs. Urban women self-help programs, also known as UWSP. Third component, skill training for employment promotion, skill training for employment promotion amongst urban poor. Skill training for employment promotion amongst urban poor. The scheme is known as Step Up. Step Up. STEPUP. Step Up. Fourth component is urban wage employment. Urban wage employment program. Urban wage employment program. UWEP. Urban wage employment program. And the last component or the fifth component is urban community development network. Urban community development network. Okay, so I have already told you to highlight the words of self-employment. You look at each and every component, or you look at this scheme, you'll understand that this scheme is different from the other 3 schemes which we have studied. Okay, this one focus on the urban sector of India or on the urban section of India. It focuses on the urban unemployed and urban underemployed people. Okay, it is for generating or providing employment to those people who are there in urban India. The National Rural Livelihoods Mission, the Maganrega or Swarna Jayanti Gram Surojgar Yojana, all the schemes which we have studied till now, we focused, or these schemes had a focus or were dwelling upon the fact that rural India was poor. Rural India was the thing to be noticed upon. Rural India was to be developed. This scheme is a bit different from those 3 schemes. This scheme takes into consideration the fact that urban India has also got underemployed and unemployed people, right? For example, I'll give you a simple example. Take the case of Kerala. In many parts of Kerala, we can see that there is a high rate of unemployment, and that can be one reason for migration also. Okay, migration to different countries. So that is a reason of, or that is a one example of urban unemployment or urban underemployment, where we, even when we are educated, even when we are even when we have passed 12th grade, or even when we are graduates, we find it difficult to get a job in the job market. That is when the situation of urban unemployment and urban underemployment comes into consideration. What is the difference between underemployment and unemployment? What is the difference between unemployment and underemployment? What's it? Okay. What can be the exact difference between what do you know about unemployment? What is unemployment? What is unemployment? You see, you want to have a job, you want to get a job in the job market, but you're not getting it, right? You're willing to do a job, but you're not getting the job which you want, or you're not getting a job in the job market. You don't have a wage. That is the concept of unemployment. Now, what would be underemployment? What would be underemployment? We have discussed all these things in the topic of unemployment. What is it? It's not about disguised unemployment, but underemployment is a situation where I've already told you, you might have a graduation, you might have a graduate degree, okay? You might be a graduate, but you might be doing the job of that of a 10th standard, which requires a qualification of maybe 10th standard or 8th standard. That is the concept of underemployment. So you are being utilized for a purpose that doesn't require your quality or your qualification. Okay, that is underemployment. And you must be able to tell at least a definition of employment for that reason. Employment is also related to what? Involuntary or voluntary unemployment? Involuntary unemployment. So you must revisit these topics again and again. Okay. Okay. So we were discussing about this scheme. So I was telling you that this is the scheme which apart from the other three schemes. So you note it down somewhere. This scheme main focus, you always cannot read all the points you have written down. So you highlight certain things there. Urban. This scheme focus on the urban sector of India. What is the date? This was introduced in 1997, but it took its effect after the revamp. It took its effect from April 2009. So you highlight certain things. You highlight out certain points. You just note that down and that quickly goes to your mind. Otherwise, you will not be able to recollect all the points in under a scheme. So this, apart from the three schemes, what is the difference? Focus on the urban sector of India, okay? Focus on the urban underemployed and urban unemployed people. And I've already told you to highlight the one important component that is regarding self-employment. If you have noticed this scheme, if you read that sentence once again, which you have written, before the 5 components, we have told that this gives importance to self-employment. Okay. So this is an area which gives importance to self-employed. This is a scheme which gives importance to startups, self-employments. It helps in business. Okay. It helps in business. It helps in startups. And that is where the role of Kerala or the state as of Kerala comes into importance. We have a Kerala startup mission. We have a Kerala startup mission. And I don't know how many of you are aware of the thing called or this organization called IEDC or the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Development Center. I don't know whether those are there in your colleges or schools or not. But there are organizations like this, okay? There are organizations or centers like this to help students. There might be many students with a lot of ideas, okay? They might have a lot of startup ideas, but they might not be knowing how to put this into practice. ഇത് എങ്ങനെ ഒരു ഐഡിയ ഉള്ളതിനെ എങ്ങനെ ഒരു പ്രോഡക്റ്റ് ആക്കി മാറ്റുന്ന ഐഡിയ ഇല്ലാത്ത ഒരുപാട് സ്റ്റുഡൻസ് കാണും ബട്ട് ദർ ഐഡിയ മൈറ്റ് ബി ഗുഡ് അപ്പൊ അതിനെ കൺവേർട്ട് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ടാണ് വി ഹാവ് സെന്റേഴ്സ് ലൈക്ക് കേരള സ്റ്റാർട്ടപ്പ് മിഷൻ ആൻഡ് ഓൾ ആൻഡ് ദി ബെനിഫിറ്റ് ഓഫ് ഹാവിംഗ് ദീസ് ടൈപ്പ് ഓഫ് സെന്റേഴ്സ് ഓഫ് മിഷൻസ് ഇസ് ദാറ്റ് സെൽഫ്-എംപ്ലോയ്ഡ് ആവുമ്പോൾ ഏറ്റവും വലിയ ഗുണം you don't have to depend on anyone. You are not dependent on anyone. You are independent. You are the one who are going to provide jobs to other kind of people. If you ask me whether there is risk, there is definitely a risk in starting a business or in building a startup. But you are the one who is going to employ people. You are not an employee. You are an employer. Okay. That is the difference. That is the concept where the concept of dependency comes into consideration. You are not dependent on anyone. You are not dependent on any other market. You have your own company. You have your own business. You have your own money. And that is where this SGSY, SRY comes into consideration. So whenever you hear this word self-employment or building of startups, so you can write it down as a point. You just note down the word startup or building a startup ecosystem. You just write down that point so that gets into your mind. So it's about self-employment. It's about getting self-employed. You are becoming an employer, not an employee. Okay. So that is a major aim. That's a major benefit of this scheme. Okay. Now you may note down SGSRY. You can write down SGSRY. That is the scheme replaced by the SGSRY replaced by the NULM, which I'll tell you what it is. NULM. You right now just write the short form of it. NULM. In September 2013. In September 2013. Aimed to provide gainful employment to whom? Gainful employment to urban unemployed and urban underemployed. Urban unemployed and urban underemployed people. This mission also focuses on providing basic amenities like shelter, to which section of the society? To the urban homeless. Urban areas, to the urban homeless. It also planned this scheme. It also planned to address livelihood concerns of urban street vendors. Urban street vendors. Okay, and you may underline that last point. You may highlight that last point of providing or giving importance to urban street vendors. That's a major point because that can be one major source of income, or that can be one major occupation when it comes to the urban areas. Okay, you don't see a lot of these street vendors in rural areas, but when it comes to urban areas, you analyze the case of Trivandrum. How many street vendors are there? I mean, for food, for selling bangles, toys, and all other things, there are a lot of street vendors, right? They take a small place nearby a road, and they sell these things. So they are also a major source of income. They are also a major part of the society, especially when it comes to urban India. Okay, so giving importance to them also comes as a major objective of this scheme. Okay. Next scheme is the NULM, or the National Urban Livelihoods Mission. We have already talked about NRLM. And so this would be the fifth scheme. NULM, National Urban Livelihoods Mission. Sorry. This the scheme which we told earlier, right? SGSRY, that is Swarna Jayanti Shahari Rozgar Yojana, was the one which was shifted into NULM. Okay. So that was the scheme which was shifted into NULM, that has been restructured into NULM, and it aimed at the scheme aimed at organizing urban poor. The scheme aimed at organizing urban poor in self-help groups, comma, self-help groups, comma, imparting skill training, to urban poor, for self and wage employment, and helping them to set up self-employment venture, by providing credits, on subsidized rates, by providing credit on a subsidized rate on a subsidized rate of interest. In addition, in addition, comma, shelters for urban homeless, shelters for urban homeless, and infrastructure for street vendors, and infrastructure for street vendors, and infrastructure for street vendors can also be taken up, can also be taken up under this mission. So this is similar to what we have studied in SJSRY, that is a Swarna Jayanti Shahari Roskar Yojana. The scheme is nothing different. It also focuses on the urban poor, gives importance to the urban street vendors, focus on providing self-employment ventures, nor importance gives importance or gives a thrust on providing or in enabling much more startups in the society or building up a startup ecosystem. So that this is comparatively NULM was SGSRY was replaced by NULM. So this scheme has taken a lot of characteristics from SGSRY. Okay, now may I write down NULM or National Urban Livelihoods Mission, NULM. You just write the short forms now. NULM was launched by the Ministry of Housing. NULM was launched by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation, Ministry of Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation, Ministry of Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation, also known as MHUPA, Government of India. For Government of India, write GOI, okay? Government of India on 23rd September, 2013. On 23rd September 2013 by replacing which scheme? Okay. The NULM will focus on this is a thing which we have told, will focus on organizing urban poor, will focus on organizing urban poor, will focus on organizing urban poor in their strong grassroots level institutions, focus on organizing urban poor in their strong grassroots level institutions, creating opportunities for skill development, etc. Now you just go through the schemes of NRLM, Swarna Jayanti Shahari Roskar Yojana and NULM, and we'll move to the next schemes. Okay, you just go through that. Okay, now you may note down the main features of NULM. Okay, this is a very important mission. NULM is a very important mission. The main features of NULM are you write it in or you underline this coverage. You write coverage and underline this. Okay, COV coverage. COVERAGE coverage. What does it cover? Okay. In the 12th 5-year plan, in the 12th 5-year plan, in the 12th 5-year plan, NULM, in the 12th 5-year plan, NULM was implemented in all districts. NULM was implemented in all districts, headquarter towns, in all districts, headquarter towns, and all other towns with a population of 1 lakh or above, and all other towns with a population of 1 lakh or above or 1 lakh or more, 1 lakh or above as per census 2011. At present, 790 cities, 790. At present, 790 cities, 790 cities are under NULM. So that's the coverage of the scheme. Okay. 790 cities are under NULM. Next thing to be highlighted is target population. Target population. As you underline coverage, underline this also. Target population. The primary target of NULM. The primary target of NULM is the urban poor, which you all know right now, is the urban poor. In bracket, you may note down urban homeless. Urban homeless. Okay, the third point which you can highlight is sharing of funding. Sharing of funding. Funding will be shared. Funding will be shared between the center and the states. Funding will be shared between the center and the states in the ratio 75:25. That is center will take most advantage of it. 75:25. Okay, put a full stop and then write for Northeast and special category states. For Northeast and special category states. You may note down the example of certain special category states in brackets: Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir. You just note down 3 or 4 names. That's it. Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir, Tripura, Sikkim, etc. For these states, the ratio will be 90:10. 90:10. In northeastern states, special category states, sharing of funding will be in the ratio of 90:10. Okay. Rest of the states, it will be in the ratio of 75:25. അതാണ് ഷെയറിംഗ് ഓഫ് ഫണ്ടിങ്. ടാർഗറ്റ് പോപ്പുലേഷൻ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഓൾറെഡി അറിയാം. കവറേജ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് 790 cities under will come under NULM. Okay. So this is the way you have to study each and every scheme. Okay. But the reason why we have stated all these things under this mission is because this mission is a bit more important. National Urban Livelihoods Mission is very important in terms of all the competitive examinations. NULM is very important. NRLM is also very important. The Swarna Jayanti schemes are okay, but Maganrega, NULM, NRLM, these schemes are very important in terms of the exam perspective also. So whichever scheme you study, as I've told you earlier, when we studied the recommendations of the poverty line estimation of the S. Rangarajan committee, expert group, etc., I've already told you, whenever you take a topic, you must be able to answer the WH questions, right? What, where, when, how, and why. Okay, if you are able to answer these questions to certain things, that's it. Even when you study history also, it's like that. You take a simple battle for that reason. What, where, when, how, and why. Between whom was it fought? Why was it fought? Where was it fought? What was the reason? If you are able to answer these, how was it fought? If you are able to answer these WH questions, you have understood that battle. The same applies here. When you understand and analyze the schemes, or when you understand and analyze the certain recommendations of committee, what were the recommendations? Why were the recommendations made? Were the recommendations good or it was effective? When was these recommendations made? Okay, these are the questions you have to answer. Now you may note down the guiding principles. This is something which comes under the scheme only. Guiding principles. Guiding principles. The core belief of NULM. The core belief of NULM is that the poor are entrepreneurial, PRENEURIAL, entrepreneurial, and have innate desires to come out of poverty. The challenge is to unleash their capabilities. The challenge is to unleash their capabilities and capacities to generate meaningful and sustainable livelihoods. Okay, for that, the first step would be, for bringing out that innate desires in them, the first step would be to motivate them. The first step would be to motivate them to form their own institutions. Okay, to form their own institutions. What is the benefit of forming their own institutions? What can be the benefits when they form an institution? അവരൊരു ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ ഫോം ചെയ്യുകയാണ്. ഓക്കെ, ഫോർ വാട്ട് ക്യാൻ ബി ദ ഒരു ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ അവർ സ്വന്തമായിട്ട് ഫോം ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ, ഗവൺമെന്റ് ഒന്നും അല്ല, അവർ സ്വന്തമായിട്ട് ഒരു ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ ഫോം ചെയ്യുന്നു. വാട്ട് ക്യാൻ ബി ദ ബെനിഫിറ്റ്സ് ഓഫ് ഫോമിംഗ് സച്ച് ആൻ ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ? ഓക്കെ, സെറ്റിംഗ് ദെയർ ഓൺ റൂൾസ് ആൻഡ് ഗൈഡ് ലൈൻസ്. അതല്ലാണ്ട് Okay, trust. It's about reducing that social anxiety. It's about reducing social anxiety, increasing social mobilization, increasing connection. ഓക്കെ, ഒരാളുടെ ഐഡിയനെക്കാളും 10 പേര് ഒരുമിച്ച് ഒരു കാര്യം ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യുകയാണെങ്കിൽ യു വിൽ ഗെറ്റ് എ ലോട്ട് ഓഫ് ഐഡിയാസ്. ഓക്കെ, ഒരാളുടെ ഐഡിയ എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും ഇറ്റ് മൈറ്റ് ബി ലിമിറ്റഡ്. പക്ഷെ 10 പേര് ഒരുമിച്ച് ഒരു ഓർഗനൈസേഷനിൽ വന്നിട്ട് വെൻ ദേ ഡിസ്കസ് ദെയർ ഓൺ ഐഡിയാസ്, ദാറ്റ് 10 people might be able to contribute hundreds of ideas. So that is the difference. So you may write down what is the benefit of forming these institutions. For that question you may answer, what is the benefit? നിങ്ങൾ എഴുതിയ സെന്റൻസിന്റെ താഴെ വാട്ട് ഇസ് ദ ബെനിഫിറ്റ് എന്ന് എഴുതിയാണ്. വാട്ട് ഇസ് ദ ബെനിഫിറ്റ് എന്ന് എഴുതിയിട്ട് യു ടേക്ക് ദിസ് ഡൗൺ ആസ് എൻ ആൻസർ. ടു ഇൻക്രീസ് സോഷ്യൽ മൊബിലൈസേഷൻ, to increase social mobilization, comma, institution building, social mobilization, institution building, livelihood promotion, reducing social anxiety, convergence of ideas, ability to be a group or ability to be a team, brushing up their innate talents, etc. Okay, so this is the benefit. Okay, this is one of the guiding principles. The first step which we have written down as motivating them to be much more reliant on their ideas, on their innate desires. A person might have an innate desire, or this, as per this mission believes that every person has got an entrepreneurial capacity, or a person to be a person has got an innate capacity to produce his or her own innovations, ideas, or to be an entrepreneur. Okay, an entrepreneur in the sense not only in the form of building a startup, but it can also be in the form of contributing ideas. It can also be in the form of contributing innovations, coming up with new innovations. It can also be in the form of writing. It can be in many forms. So if they form their own institution, ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ എല്ലാവരും കൂടെ ഒരു ടീമായിട്ട് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ ആയിട്ട് ഫോം ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, ദി ഐഡിയാസ് ദാറ്റ് കം ഔട്ട് ഓഫ് ദിസ് ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻ ഓർ ദിസ് ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ മൈറ്റ് ബി ഇമ്മൻസ്. ഒരുപാട് ഐഡിയാസ് വരും, ഒരുപാട് ആൾക്കാരുടെ തിങ്കിങ് കപ്പാസിറ്റി വരും. ആൻഡ് വാട്ട് ദിസ് ഫൈനലി ഡസ് ഇസ് നിങ്ങളുടെ സോഷ്യൽ ആൻസൈറ്റി കുറയ്ക്കും. ഒരാൾക്ക് ഒരു ഐഡിയ മുമ്പിൽ പറയാനുള്ള ദാറ്റ് what you call that stigma to speak, that stigma to produce your idea before someone, that will get reduced. Okay, and you will automatically feel, yes, I have such and such an idea, I'll discuss it with my team. So what is the full form of team? Team has got a full form. What is the full form of team? That is nothing related to this economics, but I'm asking you. Together each one achieves more. That can be the abbreviation for team. Okay, so that is what the scheme aims also. Together each one should achieve more, and in such a case that rural India setup should escalate to a, or if not an urban India setup, at least it should escalate it from a poverty scenario to a non-poverty scenario. Okay, so that is the benefit of forming your own institution. That is the benefit of forming an institution at a very social background or at a very local background. Okay, if ningal IMF World Bank അതുപോലുള്ള വലിയ ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻസിന്റെ ഭാഗമാകുമ്പോൾ, as he rightly said, you will have to follow their own rules, their guidelines, their safety procedures, norms, etc. But when you are forming an institution of your own, when you are a team, you are building a guides and rules and guidelines of your own. You are not afraid to speak in front of anyone. You are progressing each day. എല്ലാവരുടെയും ഐഡിയ കോൺട്രിബ്യൂഷൻ കിട്ടുന്നുണ്ട്. എല്ലാ ഐഡിയയും നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എല്ലാ ഐഡിയയും എടുക്കണമെന്നില്ല, എല്ലാ ചില ഐഡിയ എടുക്കാം. സോ thereby you are, that's what I told, you are becoming a team. That is, together each one is achieving more. So that is the basis of this guiding principle. Okay. The first step is to be motivate everyone. That motivation is not only done by the government, but by the people of rural India also. നമ്മൾ ഓരോരുത്തരും നമ്മളെ തന്നെയാണ് നമ്മളെ മോട്ടിവേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. So that inspiration or that motivation comes from within that organization or that society. Okay. That is the first step. The second step is that, or NULM believes in livelihood promotion programs that can be scaled up. NULM believes in livelihood promotion programs that can be scaled up in a time-bound manner, only if driven by the poor, and their institutions. Such strong institutional platforms, this is a continuation of that first point, okay? Such strong institutional platforms support the poor in building up their own human, support the poor in building up their own human, social, financial, and other assets. Human, social, financial, and other assets. This in turn enables them to access or gives them access to rights, entitlements, opportunities and services from the public and private sectors, while enhancing their solidarity, voice and bargaining power. Solidarity, voice, and bargaining power. Okay, so these are these three things: solidarity, voice, and bargaining power are the results of what? Forming institutions. Or institution form ചെയ്ത് നിങ്ങൾ അതിൽ നിന്ന് develop ചെയ്യുമ്പോഴാണ്, that's when you have solidarity, unity. That's when you have voice. That's when you have the fear. When you feel free to speak. When you are breaking off that shell of the fear to speak, and when you have the bargaining power. നിങ്ങൾ ഒറ്റയ്ക്ക് നിൽക്കുമ്പോൾ bargaining power അല്ല, നിങ്ങൾ 10 പേരായിട്ട് നിൽക്കുമ്പോൾ you will have much more bargaining power. So that is the benefit of forming an organization or an institution of your own. Okay. Next point which you can note down is NULM would aim at universal coverage of the urban poor, for skill development, and credit facilities. For skill development and credit facilities. It will strive for the betterment of the urban poor. It will strive for the betterment of the urban poor by giving them market-based jobs, by giving them market-based jobs, by giving them market-based jobs and skill development, etc. By giving them market-based jobs, skill development, etc. Okay. So you go through what we have studied in NULM. You just read that National Urban Livelihoods Mission. So I hope you all have finished reading. What is the full form of DAY? DAY? Dayal Antyodaya Yojana. What is the full form of SJSRY? Swarna Jayanti Shahari Rozgar Yojana. When was it introduced? You just go through your notebook. When was it introduced? The year. Okay. What Swarna Jayanti Shahari Rozgar Yojana? I mean, the first date and when was it revamped? First, it was in 1997, right? It was revamped to April 2009. Okay. So that is regarding SJSRY. Then I've told you to write down that thing, right? 17 SDGs, Sustainable Development. Has anyone written that? Okay. Someone please read out all those 17 SDGs. SDGs means Sustainable Development Goals. Okay. For those who have not been there in yesterday's class or the previous class, and someone for those who have been absent, you please show down where you have to write it. Okay, it's between that poverty and sustainable development goals. It's in that topic you have to write it down. For those who haven't written, you go home and write it down today. For those who have written, you may please read. Yeah, the 17 sustainable development. Okay. So, as we are studying about the schemes, we can't go at a very high pace due to the fact that it might be difficult for you to comprehend the things. Okay. ഈ schemes recommendations എല്ലാം പഠിക്കുമ്പോൾ ഭയങ്കര dry ആയിട്ടുള്ള topic ആണ്. So, if I go at a very high pace, you might not be able to follow that. അതുകൊണ്ട് that's the reason why we are slowing down a bit. So I hope you understand that. So I'll leave you for a break right now. Okay. Till 12. I'll leave you for a break till 12. After which we'll continue with the NULM. There are certain more points which I have to write down. We'll continue with it. Okay, so we were discussing about NULM. We'll write down a few more points regarding that mission, okay? Regarding the National Urban Livelihoods Mission. So you may note it down. NULM would aim at NULM would aim at facilitating NULM would aim at facilitating access to suitable spaces, comma, institutional credit, comma, social security, and skills, social security and skills to the urban street vendors, to the urban street vendors for accessing emerging market opportunities, for accessing emerging market opportunities. For accessing emerging market opportunities. So NULM would aim at facilitating access to suitable spaces, institutional credit, and social security and skills to the urban street vendors. Okay, I have already told you they are a major source of income in the urban economy. They are a major source of, they are a major section of the society also when it comes to the urban sector. So providing them access to financial resources, providing these street vendors access to financial resources, providing them with financial credit, financial services, helping them in all ways possible. That has been one of the major aims and one of the major objectives of this mission. Okay, the National Urban Livelihoods Mission. Next thing which you can note down it, this mission also aimed at providing shelter equipped with essential services to the urban homeless in a phased manner. PHASED, in a phased manner. NULM would place a very high emphasis. NULM would place a very high emphasis on convergence with schemes or programs of the relevant ministries or departments and programs of state governments dealing with skills, livelihood, entrepreneurship development, health, education, social assistance, social assistance, etc. An alliance strategy will be sought with an alliance strategy will be sought SOUGHT will be sought with all concerned departments will be sought with all concerned departments to promote skill training with all concerned departments to promote skill training of rural urban migrants as a bridge between the livelihoods of the rural and the urban poor. Bridge between the livelihoods of the rural and the urban poor. NULM. Next point, okay. Next point. NULM would aim at partnership with the private sector in providing skill training employment and operation of shelter for homeless. Skill training, employment and operation of shelter for homeless. Okay, so we've discussed a lot of points under this scheme. The NULM, National Urban Livelihoods Mission. You tell me, what did you feel as the most important point coming under this scheme? Or what all points did you feel as the most important points coming under this scheme? What can be the major points? I've already given you certain examples regarding points. What did you feel as the most important points under this scheme? Self-employment, definitely self-employment. Other than that, what development? Skill development, self-employment, skill development. Urban sector. Didn't it give importance to street vendors? So street vendors. So these are the different important points coming under NULM, okay? It's about giving home to urban homeless, giving importance to street vendors, and as both of you told, skill development as well as. So all these things are interrelated also. Skill development, self-employment, or generating entrepreneurial activities, all those things are interrelated. The things which are not interrelated are providing hope to the urban homeless, or generating them with more income, or giving them more financial access, or giving them more access to financial services. All these things are not interrelated, but comes as major points under NULM. Okay. So what are the values which have been derived under this mission? Next, note down values. This mission will espouse, ESPOU, then write spouse, SPOUSE. This mission will espouse the following values. Espouse the following values. First point, ownership and productive involvement. Ownership and productive involvement of the urban poor. Ownership and productive involvement of the urban poor and their institutions. Urban poor and their institutions in all processes. In all processes. Second point, transparency. Transparency in program design. Transparency in program design and implementation. Transparency in program design and implementation, comma, including institution building, and capacity strengthening. Institution building and capacity strengthening. Third point is accountability. Accountability of government functionaries. Accountability of government functionaries and the community. Accountability of the government functionaries and the community. Next point, partnerships. Partnerships with industry. Partnerships with industry and other stakeholders. Partnerships with industries and other stakeholders. Community self-reliance. Next point. Community self-reliance. Self-dependence. Community self-reliance, self-dependence, self-help. Self-reliance, self-dependence, self-help, and mutual help. Help, HCL. So these can also be stated as the major or the most important points of this scheme, right? That is, as they already told, self-employment, skill development, ownership of firms. Other than that, we can also take one important point into consideration, which I missed out last time. That is building up their innate capacities, right? We already told that every person has got an innate ability or an innate capacity. It's about building up that, or it's about embellishing that innate capacity or innate ability in each person, which makes this mission, or which makes this a national urban livelihoods mission a much more progressive one, or a much more important mission. Okay, so it's about enabling or improving the innate capacity. It's about self-employment. It's about generating more employment opportunities. It's about generating much more startups. So it's about a lot of things. Okay. The next mission which you can write down, or the next employment thing, is support to training. This is another mission or another project. Okay. Support to sixth one, I guess. Sixth one. Support to training. Support to training and employment program. Support to training and employment program. Support to training and employment program, which is also known as STEP, STEP. Support to training and employment program. The Ministry of Child and Women and Child Development. The Ministry of Women and Child Development has been administering. The Ministry of Child, Women and Child Development has been administering. You can write it in inverted comma. Support to training and employment programs. Support to training and employment programs for women. Support to training and employment programs for women. scheme, which is also known as the STEP scheme. Support to training and employment program for women scheme. Okay, that is known as the STEP scheme. Since 1960, that you continue that sentence, okay? Since 1986-87, since 1986-87, as a central sector scheme, as a central sector scheme, central sector scheme, you underline that word central sector scheme. The STEP scheme, the STEP scheme aims to provide, the STEP scheme aims to provide skills that give, aims to provide skills that give employability, that give employability to women and to provide competencies and skill that enable women to become self-employed, or entrepreneurs. So from what we have written till now, who is the target audience of this scheme? Women. So you may write it down. Target audience is women, and you underline that. So it's easy for you to understand. You don't have to read all of this. Just remember one thing, that this comes under the Ministry of Women and Child Development. Okay. So automatically you can guess that this will be a scheme meant for women or is intended to women. Okay. For the development of women. So this is a scheme which is meant for empowering women. What was the major or objective of National Urban Livelihoods Mission? It was about empowering people, right? Okay, maybe there can be an empowerment of women, but it was more about empowerment of people. Empowering people to be much more productive, to be much more innovative, to bring out the entrepreneurial capacity in them. Okay. Now, that was from a general point of view, that was from a general perspective, what we saw in NULM. Now, when it comes to the case of STEP, that is support for training and employment program, STEP, which is a much more women-oriented program. What we analyze is the empowerment comes not in a general sense, but in the sense of empowering women. Okay. So that can be the major point of difference between these two schemes. I already told you one difference between NULM and the other schemes. What was that? Yeah, NULM is basically an urban sector focused scheme, right? The other NRLM or Maganrega or the Swarna Jayanti, Shahari Rozgar, all those schemes were intended to the rural sector of India, while NULM was focused on the urban sector of India. Now, what can be the point of difference between NULM and STEP? Okay, that's where the point of difference comes. NULM was much more, the coverage was, the target audience was whole of the people, or it was not only intended to women. But when it comes to this program called STEP, it is much more women-oriented program. It is meant for the empowerment of women. Okay. So that being said, you may write down, this scheme is intended to, benefit women. The scheme is intended to benefit women who are in the age group, of 16 years and above across the country. Of 16 years and above across the country. The grant under the scheme, grant, G-A-R-N-T, okay? Grant under the scheme is given to the grant under the scheme is given to institutions or organizations including NGOs, directly and not the states or union territories. So earlier itself, we told how the grants work, how the transfer of shares happen, or how the funding of shares happen. Now, when we analyze this scheme, we can understand that the grant goes directly to the NGOs, right? The grant goes directly to the NGOs and not to the states or union territories. Do you remember what I told you to underline? It was a central sector scheme. I told you to underline that point. This is a central sector scheme, which means that the 100% funding will be coming from the central government. And whom are they addressing these grants or these funds to? It's to the NGOs or the non-governmental organizations, okay? And not to the states or union territories, okay? The assistance under STEP, the assistance under STEP scheme, the assistance under STEP scheme will be available in any sector. The assistance under STEP scheme will be available in any sector for imparting skills related to employability, imparting skills related to employability and entrepreneurship, including but not limited to agriculture, horticulture, food processing, agriculture, horticulture, food processing, handlooms, tailoring, stitching, embroidery works, etc. You write a few: tailoring, stitching, embroidery works, etc. This scheme also provides for the skill development. This scheme also provides for the skill development in areas such as spoken English, gems and jewelry, travel and tourism, hospitality, etc. Okay, so these are the few areas which this STEP scheme focuses on. This is not a limited, it's not meant that only to these sectors will the STEP scheme provide its facilities to, no. But it's in such a way that agriculture, then there are a lot of activities, especially in which women are involved, okay, or only women are employed, especially when it comes to the case of embroidery works, stitching. More women are employed in this type of jobs, okay. Embroidery work, stitching, tailoring, men might be involved, but still a high share of women might be involved in these type of works. And giving them access or giving them a much more skill upgradation in spoken English, or maybe in handicrafts, in jewelry, in travel and tourism. In all these sectors, these can make them a better personality altogether. This can make them a much more presentable personality, I could say, because if a person finds it difficult to speak English or in any other case, in any mode of communication for that reason, like can be our mother tongue Malayalam or for any reason, any language you take, if he or she is not able to speak that language confidently and or comfortably in front of other people, he or she will abstain from speaking. Okay, that is a common case. That's a common thing with the people. But if he or she is given training for that, for upgradation for that, especially when it comes to spoken English classes or for learning languages, they might become much more empowered. They might feel safe to speak. They might feel that audacity to speak forward in front of people, in front of any number of crowd. Okay. So that can be the benefit of giving them access to spoken English classes or to other language classes, whereby they'll feel safe to speak. They'll at the same time feel much more empowered to speak. That can also be one form of empowerment. Okay. Empowerment of women, whenever we hear the word empowerment of women, we think of feminism as such. Okay. We think of only women getting that higher status than men. No, it's not like that. It's about getting equal or giving equal status to both men and women. Okay. And that is the basic idea of feminism also. It is giving equal status to both men and women. So that is one of the major ideas of this scheme. Women who might be a bit downtrodden in the society, in the Indian society, for empowering them, they might or they should be given access to spoken English classes, travel and tourism, embroidery works, tailoring, stitching, and all other such works in which women share is more. The workforce share of women is more. Okay. If they are given much more importance, if they are given much more access, financial aid, financial grants in the services in which they are more, they can get much more empowered. Okay. That is the major objective of this scheme. That is the STEP scheme. Next scheme which you can write down is the Pradhan Mantri Nai Mansil Yojana. PM. It's not necessary that you write Pradhan Mantri as such. You can write PM NAI Nai Mansil Yojana. MANZIL Yojana. NAI MAN. These are two different words. Okay. Nai Mansil Yojana. NAI MANZIL Yojana. PM Nai Mansil Yojana. First, you write it in short. Okay, don't you don't have to write the whole sentence as such. Launched in April. I mean, sorry, August 2015. Launched in August 2015. It's a skill development program. It is a skill development program. It is a skill development program with a time period of. It is a skill development program with a time period of 3 months. With a time period of 3 months. And is supposed to benefit girls from minority groups. And is supposed to benefit girls from minority groups. Minority groups girls to support girls from minority groups. Seven sectors have been identified. 7 sectors have been identified for which assistance will be provided. 7 sectors have been identified for which assistance will be provided by the Indian government. Assistance will be provided by the Indian government. Next line. The program has been created. The program has been created following the recommendations. The program has been created following the recommendations made by the Sashar Committee, SACHAR. Sasha Committee, SACHR, Sasha Committee to improve the social welfare. Sasha Committee to improve the social welfare. To improve the social welfare and educational programs in India. And educational programs in India. And you may note down those 7 sectors, okay? Please note down the 7 sectors. First one is saffron processing. Saffron, SAFFRON. Saffron processing. Tourism and hospitality. Tourism and hospitality. Food processing. Food processing. Electronics. Embroidery. Embroidery. Plumbing. 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 Computer and IT. Computer and IT. And IT. Apart from the girls and women, apart from the girls and women, the program also, apart from the girls and women, the program also looks to help minority youth. Program also looks to help minority youth who have dropped out of their schools. Minority youth who have dropped out of their schools or received their education in madrasas, MADARSAS, madrasas and other similar educational institutions. And other similar educational institutions. Note down as a single point, age limit is between 17 to 35 years. Age limit 17 to 35 years. You just go through what you have written right now. When was the scheme introduced? August 2015. So I hope you might have understood that this is a program meant for the minority girls, okay? The girls who come from the minority groups. And what do you think, this, if I'm asking a general question, what do you think would be the most important factor in helping girls becoming much more empowered in our Indian society? That single factor, education. Education, whether it be the girls from the minority sector or girls in general, the girls are the ones who become women in future. So for that empowerment, rather than doing an empowerment of women, If we start at empowerment at a very young age for girls itself, I think our society would be much more progressed and much more empowered by the time they become or mature, they become mature as women. Okay. By the time they reach this time period of age of 35 years, I think they would be empowered. If a girl is receiving education, if a girl is educated, if she knows about the whereabouts and all the aspects of different things, basic education. I'm not talking about a graduate level degree or something like that. But if you're here, if she receives basic education, I think that can be the major impact the Indian society can have. That can be the major positive impact the Indian society can have in terms of girls' education. So rather than doing a women empowerment, I would rather suggest, or I would rather recommend, I mean, suggest in a sense that you can also state it as a solution, maybe it's about bringing about the girls in a much more progressed way. It's about giving them basic education. It's about giving them access to that basic resources and amenities, which makes them empowered throughout their life. Okay. You cannot expect a dog to be trained. Okay. This is a different example. You cannot expect a dog to be trained at a late age. If you train a dog from a very young age, okay, from the time you get that dog to your home, if you train it in such a way, it will automatically get used to the ways, okay, so that it's very easy for you to communicate to it to make all the aspects related to that dog. Likewise, that's a very different example, but likewise, if we do things from a very young age, that's what I'm trying to convey to you. If we do, or if we empower them from a very young age, I think that would be the major point of empowerment in our society. Rather than doing a women empowerment at a very late age, I think it would be better if we can empower these girls, not only from the minority groups, but also girls like you. I mean, giving them the basic education and basic necessities and amenities. If that can be provided, I think that would be the major reason for a positive stride towards women empowerment in our Indian society. Okay. So you may also note one more point. The program has also received. The program has also received some much needed financial boost, some much needed financial boost with an agreement, with an agreement, with an agreement with the union government, with an agreement with the union government and World Bank, whereby the global financial body, whereby the global financial body has agreed to provide, has agreed to provide credit, has agreed to provide credit worth $50 million, worth $50 million to be used for carrying out the programs. To be used for carrying out the programs. What's it? 50. Worth $50 million, 50 million. Worth $50 million to be used for carrying out the program. Can you name another scheme in which the World Bank was aiding? There was another scheme which we wrote down in which the World Bank was aiding. Which was that scheme? You may look and say, you just NRLM. Okay. So that's why I told you, you just revisit things. Okay. US, you write it down, USSTAD, USSTAD, I mean, it's not USS, USTTAD. That's an abbreviation for a certain thing. That's another point. USTTAD, write it in block letters. USTTAD. TTAD, that is, write in bracket, upgrading for skills and training, upgrading for skills and training in traditional arts, or crafts for development, This scheme was launched in May 2015. This scheme, this comes under the scheme. This scheme was launched in May 2015. And following activities, Nai mentioned Yojana. And I mentioned Yojana, a scheme on this USTTD, May 2015, and following activities have been taken up to assist the artisans. Following activities have been taken up to assist the artisans. ARTISANS, artisans. Art artisans. First one, Shilp Utsav, SHILP, Shilp Utsav, 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 Shilp Utsav. So you can put that in inverted comma, okay? Shilp Utsav in inverted comma, SHILP, Utsav, UTSAV. Shilp Utsav, component of the scheme. Shilp Utsav, component of the scheme, has been implemented. Shilp Utsav, component of the scheme, has been implemented through national minorities, development, National Minorities Development and Finance Corporation. National Minorities Development and Finance Corporation, NMDFC. National Minorities Development and Finance Corporation, NMDFC, to provide support to minority craftsmen, or artisans, for marketing their products, put a full stop and write NMDFC has held 8 exhibitions. NMDFC has held 8 exhibitions in the states of Haryana, Karnataka, Gujarat, West Bengal. For West Bengal and all, you write WB. Gujarat, West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Delhi. Did you get it? Haryana, Karnataka, Gujarat, West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Delhi. Including a Hunar Hut, HUNAR, Hunar, including a Hunar Hut, HAAT, HUNAR, HAAT, Hunar Hut, in the Indian International Trade Fair. Indian International Trade Fair, IITF 2016, IITF 2016, and assisted 719 artisans and assisted 719 artisans to enable them to establish national and global market linkages. To enable them to establish national and global market linkages. Second point, the ministry has also engaged knowledge partners. The ministry has also engaged knowledge partners vis-a-vis, I don't know whether VIZ, vis-a-vis. It's pronounced as vis-a-vis. National Institute of Fashion Technology, NIFT. National Institute of Fashion Technology, NIFT, NIFT. National Institute of Fashion Technology and National Institute of Design, NID. And National Institute of Design. Design. National Institute of Design to work in various clusters. For design intervention. Product range development. Packaging, exhibitions, fashion shows, and publicity. Tying up with e-marketing portals to enhance sales, sales, and brand building. Brand building. Both the institutions, that is NIFT and NID, okay, Fashion Technology and Design. Both the institutions have identified total 36 craft clusters. Total of 36 craft clusters with 20 to 30 artisans. In each cluster, for their capacity building. Now you relax your hands and you read what we have studied in this under this scheme, the Pradhan Mantri Nai Mansil Yojana. So who is the target audience of this scheme? Artisans, right? Artisans and craftsmen. When was the scheme introduced? August. I mean, I'm asking about Pradhan Nai Mansil. USTTAD is in May 2000. Okay, so we'll just start one more topic and we'll wind up for the day. Okay, you just write down Maulana Azad, Maulana Azad, Maulana Azad, National Academy for Skills. Maulana Azad, National Academy for Skills. What would be the abbreviation for this? Or the acronym for this? ഇതിന്റെ ഷോർട്ട് ഫോം എന്തായിരിക്കും? Manas, MANA. So it's very easy to understand. Maulana Azad National Academy for Skills, okay, also known as Manas, was established under, you write it in now, as you have written a lot of schemes, you write it like this way: under which ministry. Okay, so you just write down Ministry of such and such. I'll tell you, Ministry of Minority Affairs. Ministry of Minority Affairs. Launch date, you don't have to write sentence for this. Launch date November 11, 2014. Main aim to fulfill the vision of Skill India. To fulfill the vision of Skill India. Just write down 2 points. Manas provides an institutional arrangement. Manas provides an institutional arrangement to meet all skill development, or upgradation, upgradation needs of the minority communities in the country. Upgradation needs of the minority communities in the country. Next point is you have to highlight. Okay, next point, a special purpose vehicle. Highlight that word, a special purpose vehicle, also known as SPV. A special purpose vehicle, comma, Manas comprises of an extensive all India level training framework. All India level training framework based on collaboration with leading and reputed training providers at national or international level. Next point, you write it down in such a way. Manas, put a hyphen. Meeting. Manas, write down the next point. Manas, put a hyphen, write down skilling needs. Write that in inverted comma, okay? Skilling needs, skilling. Next point you write down, providing an all India level training framework. Providing an all India level training framework. Okay, so you note it down in somewhere under the scheme. You write it down, you underline it, or you write it in bold letters. Do something. You write the main point is skill upgradation. Okay, skill upgradation. That is there from that word of that Maulana Asad Academy for Skill itself. It's skill upgradation or skill development. Skill development or skill upgradation. That's the first point that you must write under the scheme. Okay. Then you have to write under which ministry, when was it introduced? When was it introduced? November 11, 2014. For what? What was the main aim? For fulfilling the visions of other Skill India. And I hope you might have understood from writing that points itself. It's about skill upgradation. It's about giving the minority communities a chance to upgrade their skills. They might have a very low skill set. It's about upgrading their skills. And for that, national or international level trainers are being brought to give them a skill upgradation, to give them a skill development. Okay. So that they become much more skill oriented. We have already learned one type of unemployment where jobs might be lost due to the fact that we are not upgraded to the current level of skill set. Okay. What was that unemployment known as? Under unemployment? No. There was one type of unemployment നമ്മൾ പഠിച്ചു. ആ type of unemployment പറഞ്ഞത് due to the fact that technological upgradation നമുക്ക് വരാത്തത് കൊണ്ട് we might shift, നമ്മൾ അപ്പൊ ആ ഒരു സമയത്ത് നമുക്ക് ജോലി ഇല്ലാണ്ടാവും. പിന്നീട് നമ്മൾ ആ സ്കിൽ സെറ്റ് അക്വയർ ചെയ്ത് കഴിയുമ്പോൾ we again shift back to that job. What was that type of unemployment? What's it? It's not cyclical. It's frictional. Frictional unemployment. Cyclical unemployment is unemployment which occurs due to a downtrend in the economic cycle. Okay. Frictional unemployment is when you are losing that skill set or you are not able to cope up with the skill set that is currently there in the country or in that factory or in that industry in which you are working. Okay. So coming back to this, Manas, this is an area or this is a scheme under which the rural people, the rural sections, the minority communities are given a chance to enhance their skills, to develop their skills, to upgrade their skills. How? By bringing in national or international level trainers, okay, who are capable of giving them skill upgradation training, who are capable of providing them with skill development. Okay, that is the major benefit or the major aim of this scheme. It is to create a skill India. Okay, that is the major aim of this scheme. So I hope you all read and revisit the schemes, okay, and revisit all the topics which you have learned till now, till date. From page 1 you go on, you just read or read just the highlighted points or the underlined points. Okay, you read all that, and that's it for the day. And I think you have got a revision quiz or something. You please check your mobile phones whether you received a revision quiz. If so, you received it. Okay, and you have done it. Okay, those who have done it, you may go. Others, those who haven't completed that revision quiz, you do it and you may leave. That's it for the day. Thank you.